Coach, thanks for being here today with us. Have a couple questions for you, and hopefully this can be a lot of help to the junior golfers out there. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess to start, can you just kind of give us your background in competitive golf and coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. Like a lot of people that come through the game, started playing competitive golf around 11 years old. Started the year before that, just messing around in Central Kansas. Grew up in Hutchinson, Kansas, and went to school at the University of Kansas. I actually, as a when I was in eighth grade, the Big Eight championship was hosted at our home course, Prairie Dunes, and that was kind of my first introduction into college golf, and it was something that I thought was really cool, and kind of point to that moment as when I really started thinking about college golf as something I wanted to do, not really as a career necessarily, but just the interest in it, and was at Kansas for a while. Then coached at Vanderbilt, men's and women's golf coach, assistant coach there for Press McFall and Martha Richards, and then came back to Kansas in the same position for 4 years with Ross Randall, Aaron O'Neill, and Megan Menzel, and came to Colorado. This is my 10th year now at Colorado as the men's coach.
Wow, awesome. For all the junior golfers out there, what are the main things they can be doing to really differentiate themselves, to be seen by a coach like yourself?
Well, I think I know the process is very challenging, and it's a little overwhelming, I know, for a lot of junior golfers. And I think the biggest thing is just knowing there's so many opportunities at all types of levels. We're fortunate at Colorado to be in the Pac-12, which we really feel like is the best golf conference and athletic conference in the country. But there's so many opportunities and so many great coaches and programs out there at different levels and different weather and with different facilities and academic things that I think opening the mind up is a really big deal. Just to the entire scope of the world out there in college golf, and obviously playing well, but really communicating with coaches is key. Introducing themselves, just making sure they know who they are, and really personal communication is very important. And I like to tell a lot of people they don't have to find the right 50 programs to like them. They just have to find the right one. And sometimes that's a process that can be confusing, but if they just keep looking and going from there, they'll find that spot.
Okay, great. So I know as a coach, especially with golf, numbers are really involved, both on the golf end and the academic end. Firstly, on the golf aspect, what numbers are you looking at? There are national rankings and scoring differentials. What are you considering?
Good question, John. I think there's no real probably concrete answer to that, but I will say this: we have. I've looked at everything. I look at scoring average. I look a little bit at ranking. I think most coaches understand that you can look at somebody's resume and see if they've kind of scheduled themselves to the ranking a little bit. But I feel like looking at what golf courses they've played and what they've shot on those golf courses is really important. If it's a player that they've never seen play before, and then obviously you're wanting to watch a kid and see him play and compete and evaluate that player. How they handle themselves, what their confidence like, how they treat people. All those things. I think that's what most coaches do, and they really look at players as individuals. They look at their strengths and weaknesses different from each other, and some places they really like to have a certain kid, and other places they like to have they're open to different types of characteristics of each person, and so it really depends on the program probably at that point.
Okay, great, thanks. And then on the academic side, obviously academics are really important at every school with every coach. What are you guys primarily looking at? Is it GPA or maybe the standardized test scores first?
We really look at both of them pretty equally. I think it seems like what I'm hearing nationally is I think most schools are going towards more of this is a generality, but more towards the GPA part of it, because I think that shows achievement a little bit better. I feel like some of the kids are really coached up to the test. I don't blame them. I feel like that's what they should be doing because that's the standard. but that's what I'm hearing, and I think that's going to be prevalent, especially for the younger guys, younger boys and girls out there, 15, 16 years old, getting ready to start taking those tests. I think you're going to start to see that, the really importance of having a high GPA, a slightly bit more than it has been.
Great. Next question. What would you say is the biggest adjustment for players going from high school to college golf?
Boy, this is a good question. I think this is a really important piece that you're asking here, John, and getting out to people. The biggest thing I really feel like, and there's a lot of things, but there's probably two that are really significant to me, and that's the emotional piece of going to college and being away from home and all the challenges that presents psychologically and what a young person is going to be going and doing. I don't think people are tremendously prepared for that. And I think most programs really, I know it's something we try to do is really coach to that and those emotions that those players are going to have. And then the biggest one from a golf specific standpoint is the difficulty of golf courses and the challenge of the competition is a major, major upgrade from what they're looking for as far as and from junior golf. And that's why it's really important as players have signed to start looking at men's and women's amateur tournaments to compete in more so than probably the junior golf.
Okay. Longer courses, more difficult pins,
Yeah.
difficult conditions. Okay, great. So kind of tied in with that, like you said, there's a lot more golf and a lot more school. Both responsibilities are heightened going from junior to college golf. How would you describe that school and golf balance at Boulder?
To specific to CU, we're one of the top public institutions in the U.S. and the world, and you being a guy that went to Cal, understand the difficulty that presents. I think we're fortunate in golf that a lot of golfers really want a high level academic degree to go along with high level athletics, and so I think in general having somebody that understands that those two priorities are incredibly high on their priority list is going to be huge for them. For what they're looking at as far as having a strong college experience.
Okay, awesome. One of the last questions. So you're getting thousands of emails every year from interested recruits, and typically every year you can take 2, 3, maybe 4. What are those select few doing that eventually earn them a spot on your team versus everyone else who reaches out to you?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that as a generality, there's no replacing playing really, really well, and I think we always want the kids to know, the players to know that the decisions we try to make are very difficult for us. It's an inexact science. I can speak for most coaches in saying that we're rooting for these kids. Maybe we don't have a spot for them. We're rooting for them to find a home and one that's a place that they can go and be successful. And like I said in the opening, there's a lot of great places to go. And so you don't have to be liked by everybody. I know people want to be liked by everybody, but there's a lot of great places out there. So I would say you just got to continue to find ways to separate yourself, not say, hey, I'm like a bunch of guys that you have or something else. Say, hey, I'm different from these players. Why? And go from there, because many of the best players in college golf today were not highly recruited players. They really weren't, but they worked hard. Their talent, maybe they're caught up with them. They came out of other sports. I think there's so many different factors involved that are so unique to the individual that they just for sure have to find ways to separate themselves in those ways.
Okay, awesome. So we've talked a lot about today what you're looking for, what juniors can be doing through this whole process. What's one major turnoff for you? What's one thing junior golfers should not be doing?
Boy, that's a great question. I think that's a hard one, but I really feel like, you know, there's a big question when you see somebody that's withdrawn from a lot of tournaments. That I think there's certainly questions when, people have legitimate injuries or something's happened. That happens. There's no question about that. But when you see that a lot, you kind of get a little bit, there's some red flags that go up right away. I think the thing is, people play bad. Players are going to play bad. We understand we're going to go watch recruits and they're not going to play their best. They're going to do that when they're in college. And it's more important for us to see them probably when they're playing poorly than when they're playing their best, to see how they grind and compete. So I think the biggest thing is they should never, ever, ever, ever give up, because it's pretty easy to give up. And people don't, but not very many. And that's another way they can separate themselves too. And you're going to always give the nod over somebody that's competing out there on every shot versus somebody that's just doing it when they're playing well.
Absolutely. In college, every score really matters, every hole. You have a guy who's quitting in junior golf. What kind of a sign is that for college?
Right, exactly.
Great. Well, Coach, thanks so much. This is really helpful. Thanks for taking the time, and good luck with the spring season.
All right. Thanks a lot, John. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.